In January this year, French President Macron summoned the presidents of the Sahel region in Africa. He summoned them to France. And the reason I use the word summoned is because this is the word that was used by the president of Burkina Faso, who later relented and went to attend the meeting in France. And during this meeting, Macron was quite blunt and ordered the presidents to do something about rising anti-France sentiment, rising public anger towards France's presence in the region and the presence of French troops. And in order to assert their sincerity, in order to ensure their sincerity in combating anti-France sentiment, Macron demanded and ordered them to join a task force which would include France and these countries in order to provide an African legitimacy to the presence of French troops. However, since then, until March, since January until March, not much has changed. If anything, anti-France sentiment has continued to increase rapidly. Accusations that France is there simply to stem its waning influence have gained traction. And this is why France requested a multinational force made up of mostly European countries to assist France with combating terrorism, combating instability in the region. But the devil is in the details. As part of the conditions for this task force, France has requested that these countries publicly assert a preference for the use of French troops. Macron has asserted that this is still a French operation, and also the members of this multinational task force have not sent more than 50 to 250 troops. To put that into context, France has more than 5,000 troops in the region. In other words, just like January, where France was seeking African legitimacy, this task force is designed for France to present itself as part of an international effort as opposed to a French effort seeking to impose itself in the region. Now, the problem is that this doesn't address why there is a rising anti-France sentiment. Why presidents like Ghana's President Nana comes out and says that we need to liberate ourselves from the French-backed currency, from the CFA, and adopt a West African currency. The reason there is anti-France sentiment is because France is embedded in the domestic politics of these nations. Chad's president came to power via French help. When there was a rebellion against Chad's president, it was French planes that bombed them. It was French planes that bombed the opposition. And when Chad citizens protested France's intervention or France's interference in domestic politics, France responded by sending 600 more troops. In other words, when the population in the Sahel region quite simply believe that France is there in order to stem its waning influence. But the real issue for France is not this. The real issue is that even France's allies in the region are beginning to find it untenable to continue playing to Paris's tune, to continue publicly supporting the decisions of France. Now, for France, for Macron in particular, for French foreign policy, it is fundamental to maintain a presence there in order to react to anything that might be counter to France's interest, and in order to support France's allies, such as Haftar in Libya. Let's remember, supplies go through Niger and they go through Niger. Despite all the perceptions, despite all the accusations, what is clear is that France believes it's in a very serious problem in the Sahel. To set up two task forces in the space of 3 months, all in a bid to reduce the French nature publicly and internationalize its presence, to provide some sort of umbrella for its presence, suggests that Paris is deeply concerned with what's going on in the Sahel, not from a security perspective, not from a terrorism perspective, but from an influence and diplomatic perspective, from a reputation perspective, and from a power play perspective. France believes that its power is under threat, and that is why we see it scrambling in establishing these task forces and trying to make the focus on the security issue and not the grievances of the local population.